embarrassing is, like, no offense to anybody that might be part of the Episcopalian Church, but the fact that their bishops are so liberal and so political. The national prayer service that Trump and Vance and members of the Trump family went to yesterday was an absolute disgrace. I cannot believe that no one vetted this whole service before it actually happened, that they didn't know who was going to be delivering the sermon. But it turned out that it was this crazy bishop who used the opportunity selfishly to lecture Trump. Here is what that sounded like.
Of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. The people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here.
Disgusting.
What's her name? Marianne Bud?
Buddy, I'm not sure how to say it.
Yeah, but what? Let's all say a prayer for how much we hate Donald Trump and the horrible things that he's going to do to our nation. Dear Heavenly Father, you're like, what? Wait, what? Who didn't vet? You know who didn't vet? We can find them today because they're out of a job.
I mean, that was just despicable on every level. And this woman has been an activist way more so than a preacher or pastor or a bishop or whatever her title is. Back in the George Floyd days, she was also going hard after Trump. Here's what she said during one of those protest rallies.
Why did you want to come out here and send
their message? It is a message of a call for justice, for swift justice for George Floyd, for systemic justice for all brown and black people who have been under the knee of this country in ways that we have witnessed time and again. This is wrong. And this rising up, this spontaneous uprising of people, mostly half my age or younger, they're the ones we should be listening to.
And they're angry at the president.
They're so angry.
They're angry at the president. So what is your message to President Trump today?
Well, I've given up speaking to President Trump. We need to replace President Trump. We need leadership that will lead us in the ways that this country deserves.
Unreal that is who was at the service.
I don't even, the whole thought process of these people that are so, everybody's a victim, everything's based on skin color, trans ideology, all of this wackiness that permeates into our society that we need to get out of our society. When I watch stuff like that, I think to myself, who's that for? Like, who's going to your sermons? Honestly. I mean, the goal is, right, if you're a preacher, if you're a pastor, if you're somebody who's trying to bring people to the Lord, you're casting a wide net. Mm-hmm. And what you're doing is you're demonizing one to try to catch none. And you're blaming everything on, like Trump put his knee on the neck of George Floyd.
It's just, that was, and to watch the faces of Trump and his family and the Vances, JD kept looking over at his wife. Like, can you even believe this? And she was stone faced. She would not make eye contact with him. She just kept looking straight ahead. But he was, and Trump just kept looking kind of stone faced too. None of them reacted in that moment, except that they looked a little uncomfortable. But they could have walked out, you know what I mean? Yeah. They could have rolled their eyes. They could have done a lot of things, but they decided to keep it civil and classy. And that's what they did. But man, was that ever out of line. I mean, it was just out of line. And then Trump was, yes. You guys, we are dog lovers on the show, as you know, and we've talked about this amazing product from naturopathic Dr. Dennis Black, who put together this amazing product for dogs and now cats, Rough Greens for dogs and Meow Greens for kitty cats. It's a health supplement for your pets. And so it's just a green powder that you sprinkle onto their dead, dry kibble, helps bring it to life. One of our very own insiders who did some night. She's a huge fan of all of the sponsors of our show. And we showed her talking about some of our sponsors yesterday. Donna also uses Rough Greens.
For my dog. My dog Boo loves her Rough Greens. I highly recommend, if you love your dog, you need to give them Rough Greens. And I know you all love your dogs. Boo's coat is so soft. She rarely ever has bad breath. It's just great stuff. We also give her the Rough Greens chews. This is very good for her, very digestible, and it helps assuage our guilt every time we leave the house. We could just give her one of these.
You can't get a better endorsement than here from our own community. And you can try it for free, you guys. You can get a free Jumpstart trial bag of either the Rough Greens for dogs or Meow Greens for cats. You just need to go to roughgreens.com and use promo code CHICKS to get that free Jumpstart trial bag. It's a $20 value, and you'll just pay for shipping. That's it. And then you can see if your pet loves it, and I can assure you that they will. Roughgreens.com, promo code CHICKS. And then Trump was asked about it shortly after. I think his anger about it grew over the day afterwards. And so when he was first asked about it, he was a little vague. Reporters caught up with him, and this is what he said.
Thank you. Mr. President, what did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the service?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
They can do much better.
It could have been much better, he said.
He
was pretty tame in that moment, pretty tame. Scott Jennings, who is a favorite of
Lonely Scott. I call him Lonely Scott. Lonely Scott at CNN. taking on 9 people at once.
And he's so good at it. He's so freaking good at it. He let loose about this ridiculous incident. Here he is.
These woke Scapalians or Episcopokians or whatever they're calling themselves today, this is ridiculous. This was terrible. Donald Trump, I'm sure, regrets participating in this event today, to be lectured to and politicized in a church this way. And I thought it was, frankly, a disgrace to what they did at this event. I don't know if this event will happen ever again because of this. This particular bishop took it upon herself to turn this into a complete and total circus and spectacle. And I don't know any Republican today who's like, oh, wow.
Oh, it was a very long service, right? This was like...
It was, you know what? Could you imagine how the press would react if Biden went to a Catholic church, because he's Catholic, and they denied him communion and said, because of your support of choice, we don't agree with that. And how many babies die a year? Hey, could you imagine how oh my God, it would be an uproar. But instead,
you're right.
This person's treated like a champion.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think the more time that passed yesterday after that sermon, Trump probably was on, his Truth Social. He was probably looking at social media, and he was seeing the outrage from so many people. And then it's like it hit him, right? And then he got mad, and he tweeted this: the so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone, not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. It's a giant crime wave that is taking place in the U.S. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology.
How do you really feel, sir?
I know. Well, and of course, the media on CNN in particular, Aaron Burnett was just almost fawning over this woman.
Yeah.
She invited her to come on and basically was like, "Oh my God, you're like so brave, and your message was so gentle." Here is a little bit of that interaction. It was just nauseating.
Bishop, I appreciate your time and your tone there, so serious and genuine. You see him, he's stone-faced, he then looks down, but he's listening to every word you say. As you made that personal plea to him, what were you looking at him in that moment? What kind of response were you perhaps hoping for in that moment?
I was looking at the president because I was speaking directly to him. I was also, frankly, as you do in every sermon, speaking to everyone who was listening through that one-on-one conversation with the president, reminding us all that in the people that are frightened in our country, the two groups of people that I mentioned are our fellow human beings, and that they have been portrayed in all throughout the political campaign in the harshest of lights that I wanted to counter as gently as I could with a reminder of their humanity and their place in our wider community.
So you spoke, I like how you use the word gently, because it was gentle. I mean, it was intense and passionate, but yet it was gentle. It was not ugly or confrontational.
I mean, it's
What's
just
that?
CNN is so gross.
Hey, Pastor, what kind
God.
of Subaru do you drive?